Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I am here with Vivian Säde, and if there is someone watching who can say something in chat, we'll be very happy if you say that you can hear both me and Vivian. How are you doing today, Vivian?
For the sound test, I'm very well. Thank you so much.
Oh, no. How do you feel about doing this for the next hour and a half?
I have a cup of water. This is not tea. You know, appearances can be deceiving. And I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
So I just need to explain what's going to happen. We have like a 10-minute buffer here. Vivian Säde is one of the 13 artists that's going to be joining me today. She was a guest on the podcast. She's a filmmaker and screenwriter, right? She's also going to be my wing woman co-host for the next hour and a half. The main reason for this, as I have explained to her, is that I just find it so disconcerting to be speaking to an empty room. I just need another person looking back at me, at least one. I don't know, I don't even know if I exist otherwise. So that's your function for the introduction, actually, is just to react to me, be a person reacting, and then I will be vaguely
at looking at people. Okay. And smiling. You know, one of my favorite things to do.
You are a filmmaker. That's your job. Yes, I do. Great. I'm very happy it's working. Lots of moving parts here, guys. I have I have 3 screens going, and it's like going through all sorts of channels. It was it's very scary for someone who's doing it for the first time.
You got this.
Yeah,
I do nothing. So. You got this.
I will have to. If not, I will get good at it in the next 2.5 hours.
Yes.
So this is the very first Artists on the Verge live stream. I kind of wanted to do one partially to celebrate the 2-year anniversary of the podcast. I didn't exactly plan for this, but it's the 13th of January on exactly 2 years ago, 13th of January, 2021. I published my first podcast episode. I didn't plan for it this way, but it happened this way. It was an interview with Omar Shahryar, who's going to be joining me in an hour and a half and replacing Vivian as my co-host for the last hour of the stream. And from the very beginning, and I've tried to formulate this and reformulate like what the Artists on the Verge podcast even means, and I will probably reformulate it again in the future. But basically the idea is that I want to highlight these amazing human beings who make up the majority of what the art scene is. Like, we all are the backbone, and there's a small percent of people off of whom, agents and big in the industry is making a lot of money, who are very well known, but they aren't actually the heart of what I think the art scene actually is. And I just felt like there weren't enough people talking to these incredibly just specific people who have such, each one of them has such, each artist that I meet, this indie artist that I meet, is just such an incredible human being. And I just felt someone needed to be highlighting these people. And so what I do for each episode of the podcast is that I talk to an artist for, usually it's like 90 minutes or 2 hours, and then I edit it down to half an hour. I started editing them down to half an hour. I started by doing longer ones, but then I decided to make them more bite-sized. And the idea is to present a kind of a curated version, like the essence of this person at the time I interviewed them. And the live stream, I'm hoping, will kind of open things up a little bit and show people like in their spontaneous kind of state. And maybe this is the start of like a new aspect of Artists on the Verge that will do live streams on like different subjects and stuff. So this is all a big test. I'll be very happy if people in the chat or afterwards tell me if they like this format, if it works, what doesn't work. In any case, I'm very happy. I'm really excited about dedicating the next 2.5 hours to revisiting some of these amazing people. I have only done 21 interviews in 2 years, which means if you do the math right, it means I've done less than one a month, which is
like, that's still incredible though. You gotta give yourself a pat on the back for that. You started a whole podcast with a whole mission statement, and it's you kept it up for 2 years. That's something to celebrate for sure.
Yes. I mean, look, I'm a workhorse. I'm more of like a steady as she goes kind of person. So, and I'm fine with that. It's not how the internet usually works, but then again, I often criticize the internet. So there you go. So I'm just going to say quickly in the next 3 minutes that we have remaining before our first 2 guests come on, Jason, Cady, and Christoph. Oh, actually, no, that's going to be you. The next 10 minutes are going to be with you. Before we move to you, Vivian, I'm going to talk about, that's at 19:20. Our first 2 guests are going to come on. I'm just going to say how this is going to go with each guest. So the way, if you look in the description, you'll see the schedule for the stream. You'll see my very obsessive personality in the schedule because everyone gets 10 minutes and you have these pairs. I've paired artists up into what I thought were interesting or maybe thematically interesting combinations. Usually they don't know each other. Usually they haven't met before. And each of those little, I call them artist pods of 2 people, last 20 minutes, which means that each one theoretically of the 2 people has 10 minutes. And each one of the artists that's, including you, Vivian, that comes onto the stream is going to just talk about what they've been doing since they've been on the podcast. You haven't been on that long ago, actually, but I know because we've been talking in the meantime, I know that you've been up to a lot of stuff. So, and I just love asking artists this because they always have something to say about it. And then we got this little guy. This is a hat. I hope it plays on camera.
About the hat. I saw it already. I'm continuously excited about it.
The story behind the hat is that I am moving out of my apartment of 10 years. And I don't know if you know this, but when you go through things, when you go through the things that you've accumulated over 10 years, they get weirder and weirder the deeper and deeper you get into your archive. I don't know if like objects morph into weirder and weirder objects as they stay in your closet in boxes. I don't know. But in any case, I have no idea how I came to this. This is a tiny hat.
I think it was a giant hat at first, and then just over the 10 years, it sort of shrunk down to a very
exactly.
I feel like that's what happened in the back of your closet. I think so.
We got a real Alice in Wonderland thing going. And in this hat are 13 questions. By the way, I didn't plan for 13 artists to be on today, but that's just what happened. It's the 13th of the month. It's exactly 2 years since I published the first episode on the 13th of January, 2021. And I have 13 questions in here, one for each artist. Although I do think I said that if people want to opt out of the question, they can also make a musical offering or like some kind of performance offering just to keep, just to keep things interesting.
Good, thank you.
Okay, let me check in my mini toggles. Yay. Okay, got to check the chat periodically.
Good.
All right, so I'm very good at this. Look at this. It's 1910 exactly.
Yeah, you're incredible.
I'm doing so good. So, Vivian, what have you been up to?
Oh, what a lovely question. I never thought you'd ask. So, life's been quite exciting career-wise. I have found my base again here in Tallinn, Estonia, and I've kept on working in trying to, write and direct some movies and well, TV series. I haven't said this publicly anywhere. You're getting the official scoop. But the Finnish National Broadcasting Union, Yle, is actually commissioning one of my mini web series for this year. So it's called Kalamaja Blues. It's going to be a comedy drama coming of age, exactly the kind of stuff that I write. And I've sent in a screenplay and it's been approved and we're going to shoot in September and I'm going to be able to direct it. And I'm really, really excited. So that's a big, big milestone for me and my entire team that I've been working with for about 5 years now. The people don't really much change. I have some lovely new additions to the team as well. But it's really, really exciting. I've also been chosen to be a part of Baltic Women in Film Mentorship Program, which is really, really exciting because it brings together 4 women from each of the Baltic states and 1 from Ukraine. And we've been able to visit all of our film festivals and sort of do talks and workshops and stuff and just sort of get a little bit of a sense of a network, which has been really, really good because this was also like Young Talents edition. So meeting people that are sort of a similar age bracket and similar place in their careers has been really, really helpful. And so I've really enjoyed that. I'm actually going to Lithuania next week to do the film festival there. So that's really exciting. And I've saved the best for last. We are working on a project together. If you didn't know, Emma, we are in fact.
Oh my God, really?
It's been really, really time consuming.
You were actually talking to my doppelganger the whole time, so I didn't even know about this.
You didn't know that reference. But yeah, we are probably going to chat about our project Echo at some point or other. We brought it up in the podcast itself when I was on as well. We might do a little wrap-up episode, as much as I understand it, if we do end up making it.
Yes.
But anyway, we are hoping that we can make it, and the application is into the Estonian Film Institute Experimental Film Fund for us to do so. So that's a very big win for the project. hopefully going to shoot it in June, but I'll stop talking about it now because we might have some time for that.
Right, because we have that little 10 minutes after our first two guests, which we might talk about Echo then. Can you just tell me a little bit about like the name of this project that got chosen just now for the miniseries and like what it means? Because it's just interesting. Yeah. Also, we should say you're Estonian, and I think Estonian. The reason the Finland picked this up is because Estonian and Finnish are so similar. Is there like a connection there, or?
There is. Estonian and Finnish are in the Finn-Ugric language family tree. I am Estonian, but it's not similar enough for us to completely understand each other. But I think what the executive, I met the executive producer that I'm now working with in another workshop called Midpoint Institute. They were in Tallinn Black Nights Film Festival. I met her through there, and then it sort of went from there. So Kalamaja is a neighborhood in Tallinn, which is quite like a, hate to say it, but hipster neighborhood. There's a lot of art people living there. It's really good. I really love it. I spend a lot of my time there as well. And apparently the Finnish also love it. There's a heck of a lot of Finnish tourists whenever I turn around anywhere. And so she saw this she saw the environment of Kalamaja in the core of another one of my projects, which is a full-length TV series. And she was like, hey, we really love that aspect. We love the characters, but we can't give you the commission for like 6 full 20-minute episodes. So would you be willing to do a mini series on the like web platform for us? And I was like, of course I would. So yeah, I guess that's the connection. And then Kalamaja Blues, because I kind of wanted to, the blues part of it kind of came out of nowhere. It was one of those things where I was like, I want something to do with Kalamaja. I want something that feels rhythmically correct. I want something that is a sort of encompasses a lot of different things, but also like we are still talking about mental health stuff and anxiety and that sort of thing. Even though it is a comedy, it's also a drama. So the blues aspect as in having the blues also came to mind. So rhythm, blues as in sad, big sad, and Kalamaja, and there we go. That's the name of it. And it will be available on their Instagram platform as well, because we're shooting it in both ways. So we're shooting it for telephone screen, and we're also shooting it for landscape. And telephone one will definitely be there for sure, for sure. Whether it also makes it to another type of web platform is yet to be seen. But yeah, that's very new sort of ways of working that neither me nor my cinematographer that I'm working with on Echo as well have ever dealt with. And then we're just sort of sending each other videos back and forth of being like, this is how you do it.
So yeah, you're really on the what do you call it? Not the threshold, the frontier of like kind of a new kind of format. So the chat just reminded me of hats. I was just looking. We said, ooh, hats. So I got to ask you a question from the hat because I almost forgot about that.
Please do. So, I did not forget. I'm a big fan of that.
Okay. You saw that I took it out of the hat. All right.
I did.
Okay.
I don't know how devious you can get with this question. I don't really...
Devious?
You know?
Actually, no, I wanted them to be silly, but they're not. Like, they're just really kind of big, some of them unanswerable. I don't know.
Excellent.
Oh my God. Okay, so this is actually... Mine? Yes, it's yours. Is it? Do you want me to get a new one?
Yeah, get a new one. I don't say anything about it.
Because Vivian also contributed some questions, and I don't... that would be boring.
I contributed one, Emma, and you picked my one.
Yeah, one. And I know. It's just how it is. Okay, so this one's really funny. I don't know if you can answer this. What's the most embarrassing thing you've done for your art? You got 3 minutes.
Okay, so many. Okay. For my art is one thing. Because of my art is another thing. The thing that springs to mind immediately is when I was in film school, wrote a movie about my very awkward first kiss. And then decided to take that movie on a USB stick and then go to see my friend's house and show it to him. and then watch him slowly realize throughout the 12-minute short film that it was about him without telling him anything beforehand. Because it wasn't like a proper, we were like a couple or anything. It was like awkward, acne-ridden teenagers being like, shit, we're 16 and haven't kissed anyone yet. What do we do? Let's try it and give each other feedback. The feedback was something along the lines of, your tongue is too big. Why are your lips shaped like that? Do that. That's not okay. And then I wrote a movie about that. Quite a lot of detail for a movie. That should not, I don't do that anymore. I don't take like actual slices of life and put them into movies anymore. It's sort of like emotions and like, oh, one simple quip somebody might have said there, but I don't do that anymore where I'm just like, here's what happened to my life. I'm going to put it in the movie. Like, I don't do that anymore. So anyway, I showed him and yeah, he took it like a champ. It was fine. Would I recommend it to other people? I'm not sure. Yeah, that would be one of them. Whenever I sort of go through something quite traumatic or like not necessarily traumatic, but the embarrassing kind of traumatic, I always do think about, oh, this will be funny in a script one day. Not right now though. Not funny right now at all. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. But eventually might be funny.
Okay, well, I think maybe you just need some remove before you start talking about it. Like before you have remove, how can you process it into anything? Yeah. So actually, we have our first guest coming in a little bit early. I think I'll just let Jason Cady in because we're done with our little segment.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens when we admit.
How'd I do?
Oh, you did great, but we're still on.
No, I mean
there's no like curtain shuts and then we open again.
Just like elevator music.
Yeah. Hi, Jason. How are you? Are you dressed like this for the stream? That's amazing. Or are you going to the opera afterwards?
No, I got dressed up for this.
Oh.
I don't have that great of a background, so I figured I'd do whatever I could to at least make the foreground look better.
And you're matching my background. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, Christoph is on as well. We don't see or hear you. I got to be periodically checking the chat so that, okay, good. Okay. Christoph, you can come on anytime. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Oh, and he's gone.
Okay. Why don't we start with hi. So since Jason was on first, you don't know each other. I just think this is so interesting just to put two people that don't even know each other, but you're both composers. Yeah, Christoph, you're in Germany. Jason, you're in New York. Christoph is the founder of Klank, which is an improv group. And Jason Cady is the co-founder of Experiments in Opera. And I don't know, I just think it's interesting to throw people together like this. I don't know, given how at a clip things are moving, if we'll have time to if you will have time to converse with each other. It's the first time I've done like a really tightly programmed stream like this. So we'll see. If you watched the beginning of the stream, and if you read my emails, you know that the whole deal is, which is a big if. I know how it is dealing with people. It's a big if. You know that what I'm going to ask you is, what have you been doing since you've been on the podcast? I'll start with you, Jason, since you came in first.
Well, let's see. The one thing is the TV opera that I was involved with has been released. So it's a 10-episode
I watched it.
Video opera, and unfortunately, I don't think it's available in Europe. It's only available in the U.S. and Canada. It's streaming on All Arts, which is a division of public television in New York. And then the two things I have coming up are there's an album coming out by the singer Chelsea Hollow. It'll be out in the spring. It's called Cycles of Resistance, and I have 2 songs on it, as well as there's many songs by other composers. and it's on the theme of like activism, so that's why it's called Cycles of Resistance. My two songs are both settings of speeches in Congress by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And then I'm also working on a new opera that will debut in a year from this spring. It's called Oblivion Mall, and it is about a woman who explores an abandoned mall and is lured to go further by some sirens, and the mall turns out to be infinite.
Wow. I really like that concept. I should also say that you shared I don't know if I'm allowed to, I guess I'm allowed to say that Jason, you shared the opera with me, even though it's not available in Europe, because it's not available in Europe. I was able to see it. If you are in the US, or if, I think in spring it'll be available in Opera Philadelphia, which is behind a paywall, but it's available everywhere, right?
Yeah. And it'll also be available from another network. It's out of DC. Sorry, the name of the network is escaping me right now, but it's another all opera network, and but it'll be behind a paywall. But I assume that means it's available internationally, because if they have a paywall, I can't imagine they would not accept a paying customer from around the world.
Exactly. Yeah, so I mean, what I was going to say is that if you're in the US, or if you're able to access it behind a paywall in the spring, I guess, when it's going to be available on these other platforms, Everything for Dawn, it's a TV opera. I will say this, it is bingeable, in the sense that there's a question at the heart of it, and that you kind of makes you want to keep listening from episode to episode. There's 10, it's very ambitious, 10 episodes, and it's like a commentary. It's using both, it really raises like the medium is the message questions, because it's using like opera, obviously it's opera singers, opera singing, but then it's also using all these self-conscious TV tropes and sitcom tropes. So it's really interesting. I was actually thinking, Jason, that maybe Vivian and I could like do like a live watch of 1 or 2 episodes, which I'm hoping would be okay, because you're not giving away the ending, or you're not giving anything away for free, because we'd be chatting over it anyway. So anyway,
I love that. I was listening to it being like, this sounds like my cup of tea.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's really, really interesting. So I was gonna just float that to you here. Christoph, what have you been up to since when? Yeah, I interviewed you in the John Cage house before last summer.
Yes. Hello, everybody. So, it's interesting what Jason said, because I'm not alone here, because I thought about what to tell you from the last 2 years, but a lot of things happened. But I brought a friend. This way. This way.
It's always confusing.
My grandfather, Karl Marx. Oops. So where to go? This way. Yeah. Okay. So the thing is that what you said, Jason, about activism, it's very interesting, because this was one of the things I wanted to tell you all, that one of my most important things that I did the last 2 years was to get into connection with political activists and work with them in the field of exile, especially from Belarus. So that, because there are a lot of people coming to Germany in the last years, since 10 years even, but I didn't know that, because if you don't have any contacts, you don't know it. So I got in contact a good 1.5 years ago with artists from Belarus living in Germany or Poland, and we got into contact, and we did several projects together, which was very important to me, because I'm from that field of these, what can I say, neutral, avant-garde, very, very difficult music stuff. And so I was happy to bring this in contact with a very, very useful, whatever this means, useful connection. And so when you say you bring out a CD, it's called Activism. That's very interesting to me, because we founded here in Bremen a series called Artivism, which is the connection between art and activism, as the number says. And so what we did in the first series in our last festival, it was last November, no, 2 months ago, no, was with artists from Armenia. And the only thing is we just make the connection. We connect people from here, from Germany or German-speaking Switzerland, Austria, whatever, and bring them together with artists from, in this case, Armenia. Next will be Colombia. And so, yeah, this is the best thing I could do, because I changed a little bit from theoretical physics to practical physics. Because it's in a way, yeah, I have piles of strange music, but what to do with it? And so I try to get it in contact with something what we could call, it's not a movement. It's just a little help sometimes. Because the thing, since Ukraine, the Belarus people don't have any chance anymore. Because they come to get a commission or something like this, and then they say, oh yeah, come in. We have something. Oh, you're not from Ukraine. Oh, you're from Belarus. Yeah, sorry, this is not for you then, because you should. And this is really a bad. I stop soon. It's really a bad thing. If they meet Ukraine people, they say to them, oh, why are you here? Why don't you fight your bad guy? Why are you here? Why are you in exile? Huh? Why are you in exile? You can fight at home. No, I cannot complain because I am not in this situation. But you see, we have a strange situation. It's getting even stranger now at the moment. So, and this is what I wanted to tell you, that there is maybe a chance to do something.
Mm-hmm. And how does your music actually figure in this, or is it just you helping artists?
No, it's just with the music also.
Oh, okay, just
Sergei Shabohin, he's an artist living in Poland, in Krakow, and he made an 18-part cycle called what's it called? I'll come back to it. And I made 18 musics. It's 1.5 hour piece in 18 parts with video, with this art, and so it's practices of subordination. He made a kind of collection how in Belarus people are trained to obey. With what methods? For example, they come home and you find a chair on your table. That means there was someone in your flat. They don't change anything. They just put a chair on the table. So they know, be careful, we watch you, babies.
Because they have a network of spies. It's the government spying on people. Yeah.
From the countryside, all these young boys coming there, smashing the people nearly to death. They are from the countryside, and they have no idea what they do. They are really stupid kids, what they do there. But it's terrible. It's a Nazi shit what's going on there. Sorry.
Yes. And can you just explain to me, this is maybe me being, is that your grandfather, Karl Marx? What does he have to...
What is but it's called The Little Thinkers.
And that's Marx.
I got it from my daughter for Christmas. And so he's sitting in the tree, except the angel. And so there's Karl Marx now, because I think he's not the solution for everything, but he did a lot of good things. Yeah.
All right. A lot of Americans would agree with you. A lot of people who haven't lived in communist countries would agree with you.
I haven't.
No, I will say this. My grandmother, who was never in she was one of the few people who was never in the Communist Party, who taught at the law school here in Prague. I went to her house one day, and she had this laminated picture that she took out of a recent magazine, and it was a picture of Karl Marx pointing the way that Uncle Sam points, Sam pointing. And it said, I told you I was right about capitalism. And my grandmother, who was never, ever, she said they shoved Marx down our throat so much. She's been living 30 years now after, the Velvet Revolution in a free country, and she chose to put this on her bookshelf. It would be even more shocking if you knew her, actually. Anyway, so we went a little bit over time on the question on what you've been doing. So now I have to take the question out of the hat. This is the hat I don't know if you heard the story about the hat in the earlier part of the stream. I just found this while I was cleaning out my apartment, because that's when you find weird things. So I have these I have these two questions. I'll start with Jason again, since you started. Okay, what is a book you would recommend to artists and why?
Wow. Narrowing it down to just one, that's
I know.
rough.
You can say several. It's fine.
I mean,
He's a lenient host.
Yeah.
The one book that was within arm's reach, which is what I'm reading right now, it's called Rhymes Challenge by David Kaplan. Mm-hmm. And the subtitle is Hip Hop Poetry and Contemporary Rhyming Culture. I'm also a librettist, and so that's why I'm reading it. I'm only 37 pages into it, so it's just what I'm reading right now. Let's see. If I was going to talk about books that really influenced me, Schoenberg's book on harmony. That's a great one. Any composers that haven't really studied it, I'd recommend that. And Exercises in Style by Raymond Queneau. And that is a piece of fiction. I don't know if you could really call it a novel. It's one short scene that is then repeated over 100 times, but a different variation each time. It was actually inspired by The Art of the Fugue. And Raymond Queneau, he was an author who had been involved in the Surrealist movement. He was kicked out by André Breton and then started a movement called the Oulipo, which was sort of an anti-Surrealist movement. Not anti as in like they were angry about Breton being a little bit of a little dictator, but whereas Surrealism was all about creating art from the unconscious mind, the Oulipo was about creating works from the conscious mind. So they would do these kind of very deliberate strategies. But I've probably talked long enough now.
It's exactly 35, which is exactly when we're supposed to move on to Christoph's question. Okay, here is yours. Okay, what's one thing you didn't learn in school but wished you had?
Also a good question.
That's cool. Yeah. What we did not learn, we did not read. Another book. We did not read Drei Abhandlungen zur Sexualtheorie. Three essays about sexual theory by Sigmund Freud. We did not read this at school. And if you know, I came from very small countryside villages and small cities, 2 of them, and nobody told me about that. And that would be such a relief if they would had been talking about that at school. Because, you know, in this essay, Freud describes all the different stages what a young man or woman is going through until it stops somewhere, if homosexual or whatever. And so, they didn't tell me. And so because there was one result, there should be the end. And so this was not the one I was so much into. So I was wrong. But if they would have told me about Freud, it would be much easier.
Okay. I had a question. I wanted to ask you, actually, I wanted to ask you, could you pronounce the name of Schönberg the way that a German would? Yes.
Arnold Schönberg.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's funny when Americans say it, it's Schoenberg, or Schoenberg, yeah, something like this. I just thought it was fun since we have a German on the stream.
He was an Austrian guy, right? So it's more like Arnold Schönberg.
Okay. There you go.
Like Berg. It's like this.
Berg.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what about, just to continue with your question, what about things that you didn't learn about being an artist that you wished you would have learned in school?
Yeah, there is a story. I was at the piano at school and I was improvising like I do today. And I was at a school where a lot of classical players were trained also. And so I was doing what I'm doing now and earning money. And, and there was a guy coming in and he listened to me and was sitting there. He was, I think, a viola player or something like this. And he was sitting there and listening to me. And then he said one thing. Now I understand the new music. You do the mistakes twice, then you think it's right? This is your method. And so he was right. So it's something happens, and nobody told me at school. That would be nice to have these open form. The liberation of all the arts stuff we had not at school. It was just the thing that you have to all the study, all this stuff, and after that maybe you can something new, but don't be too new. That was really strange. No, but since we got this freedom, and it's 32 minutes left, but maybe there is another question for anybody else. Sorry.
No. Do you have anything, Jason? Do you have anything to say to what Christoph said about making a mistake twice and then calling it the correct thing? And that what did he say? He said that was new music, or that was the approach of improvisation?
He said, "Oh, I got your trick."
Yeah, okay. And this is the trick you've been doing ever since.
Mistake twice, and everybody thinks that was right.
Well, I would say another way to put it is just that it's form, right?
If you do it twice, it's form. If you do it once, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, even if it sounded right, but you don't repeat it or develop it in some way, then that could be said to be a mistake, right?
Sure. Yeah. If something happens once, this is always when I have these radio recordings, and in my pieces are sometimes those clicks and stuff. Yeah. And after that, they come and say, "We are very sorry because we had a mistake in one of the microphones. We don't know what it." No. I said it's the art part, but because it only happens once, then they think it's a mistake, definitely.
Yeah. And Jason, did you ever improvise? Was that something that ever drew you, like on the synthesizer?
Well, yeah, I do improvise.
Yeah, you do
on the synthesizer, but also I kind of got my start in free jazz on the drums.
Right. Yeah. So
yeah, I kind of went a strange route to being a composer.
Yeah, well, so, I mean, you could say that, Christoph, that was your case as well, right? You also had a strange route.
It was very strange. Yeah, because I was only studying empirische Kulturwissenschaften, empirical cultural studies, it's called in Germany.
Okay, yeah.
And then there was these studies in Bremen, where you don't have to make any Aufnahmeprüfung. There was no what is it? Proof. You don't have to prove that you can do.
Yeah, things. You don't have to do a audition.
Because it was one of these left universities where they said it's not right that people are not allowed to study if they don't have parents who pay for a piano.
Yeah.
For example, and so this was this days, and so this was the reason I could go in. Otherwise, I did a lot of things, but I could never study at a Musikhochschule in the normal way at that time. Not possible.
Right. So that's interesting. We have an American and a German who are I mean, your styles and what you do are just so different. But in this way, I think in a certain aspect of your origin, I find your stories to be a bit similar. So thank you so much for being on. It's 41. We did a great job, I think, of staying on cue. It is too fast. It is a little bit too fast, and I knew it was going to be that way. But thank you for being on anyway.
Thank you.
And I hope to talk to you again, maybe on a different stream.
It's lovely to meet you as well.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jason.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So, Elena Floris, who's in the next section, is already waiting in the waiting room, but I think she's just there early because I'm pretty sure the next section was written as starting at 50. So we have a little bit of time to talk about our joint project because we are collaborators.
We are indeed.
Yeah. So how do you feel about having handed it? It was on the 10th, right? That you handed in the application. And Felicita is here as well. This is odd. So are they here early? Both of them? Interesting. Let's just talk for a couple minutes and then we'll see, okay?
All right.
Let's just spend a couple minutes talking about this. Maybe, because I remember it pretty clearly on the schedule that it started at 50. Maybe they're just both extremely conscientious.
Make sure they're on the dot. It's great.
Yeah.
No, I mean, talk about surrealism and talk about playing with form, eh? So our project Echo is based on Juliana Hall's and Caitlin Vincent's monodrama. Yeah. And we basically adapted it into a short film. And we are now in the stage where we are sending in applications for people to get us some funds to make the thing. And it's been a really, really exciting process to put these two styles of, well, not really styles, but really completely different art forms together and seeing what we can create with the strengths of each art form, and not necessarily like, oh, we can't do this because it's on film, or, oh, we can't do this because it's opera. It's like become its own thing and fused together and it's made itself into a superhero. Like I was really... There's so many moments where I'm really surprised at your surprise at certain things. Like you were like, oh, there's a lot of like close-ups at these. I never get this in the theater. I never get like people actually being really, really close to my face. And I was like, oh yeah, we do that all the time. Like that's kind of what we do. So anything that's surprised you in terms of like filmmaking or that like you never knew about?
The process?
Yeah.
I'm a bit atypical in the sense that I've also done a lot of translating around film. Like I did a lot of script translating because that's how I made like a parallel living for a while. So I've kind of had a peek into backstage that way because I also translated like a lot of like those like director's notes, like what you had to write for Echo and this kind of stuff. And I mean, in general, I think because film is more at the heart, more in people's hearts these days, unfortunately, than and the film media, film less so, but now also just everything that's on the screen. So if I'm saying also like Netflix and HBO and all this stuff. Yeah. Because it's so much in people's hearts, there's also a lot of, I mean, maybe the most ambitious and the people who want to say something current are drawn to film more so than to live theater. And so I'm always really pleasantly, I always love following the detailed thought process of people in film and how they think of every detail and how you can play with so many themes and dimensions in very detailed ways. You can find the exact take that you want for one thing. And therefore, you can also keep things a little bit open for before you start filming, because then the magic will happen in front of the camera. You can find that one take that really works. It's also a very open-ended process, isn't it? Because so much happens in the film process. Yeah.
That's the main difference for me between directing something that's live and something that's in film. It's that every single like pixel on the screen basically is something that me and, well, as a writer director, mostly me, but you know, everybody that's in the creative process has thought about. There's nothing that goes onto the screen unless there's a happy accident, but that rarely quite happens just so. That isn't thought about. And in theater, in any live sort of theater, you don't direct the audience's gaze as much. You give them a vast sort of space, and then you're like, this is generally where it's going to be. You have the chance to like look at that corner of the set over there, even though there's a spotlight on the singer. They have that opportunity because technically that's still a part of the art. In film, you can look at the edge of the screen, but if I'm showing you a huge close-up of an eye, you're probably gonna see the eye and concentrate on the eye, you know?
Yeah.
So it's sort of like directing that attention, I would say, with intention. directing attention with intention. So
yeah, I think that's what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
I think you just said better what I was trying to say. Yeah. That there's just this amazing control that you get to have. Yeah.
Yes.
That's much more akin. It's almost like it's much more akin to what a novelist can do, in the sense that a novelist can really control so many details. And especially with all the movie magic that we have nowadays, that's so much more increasingly accessible. You can just control so much. It's really amazing. So anyway, if we don't, whether we get the grant or not, we will do like a live stream about this. You know, in a way, I think that it'll be really educational if we don't get this grant, for which we are clinging for dear life, because it's like our only chance. It's our only chance to make this. Yeah. It'll be really, because I've gone through a hell of a process with this, even before meeting you. That just like, but this is how it is. Every film's a miracle.
It really, truly is. Oh, every time I forget it, and then I get back into the process of pre-production, like pre-production of like trying to find stuff, and I'm like, holy moly, this is ridiculous. Why do we do this? But sometimes it takes, and then it's amazing, and then it's great.
Yeah, I guess you just have to be ready for that moment when you're just surprised that something worked out, and hopefully you're ready for it. So what do you think? Yeah. Let's let in Felicita and Elena.
Let him in.
Let's do it. Hello. Felicita, we cannot see you yet.
Yes.
And Elena, hello, Felicita. Where's Elena? Oh, Elena is joining. Hopefully her... Oh, there she is. How are you doing, Felicita?
Very well. Thanks. You?
Good. So like I said at the beginning, hi, Elena. Hi. How are you?
Fine.
So in case, just as a reminder, the way this is going to go, I'm going to ask you what you've been doing since I interviewed you, and then the hat is going to come in, and we're going to draw a question out of the hat. So I guess since Felicita came in earlier, I'll ask you. First I should say the reason. I mean, I had to make a lot of decisions about who to put into the pairs. I put you into a pair for the very simple reason that you're both Italian. So I just had no. Yes, and Felicita is a vocal experimenter. It looks like Elena, your internet is a little bit, but hopefully we can get through it. It's okay. And Elena is part of the amazing Odin Teatret, and she's part of a very important tradition of physical theater, going back to Jerzy Grotowski. It's really fascinating. I met at a physical. I met Elena. She was co-teaching a physical theater workshop in Prague, and I met Felicita actually at the Cage House, the same place where I met Christoph Ogiermann, who was just now the composer, who was just now on. So, Felicita, tell me, what have you been doing? I haven't interviewed you that long ago, but surely I know that you've been doing so many things.
Yes, I can tell you what I've been doing in the meantime after the interview up to now, because 2 big projects came out, and one of this is some research about. So I'm both a singer and vocal experimenter and voice researcher. Not in terms of scientific research, because of course I'm not a scientist, so I can't do real science, but from the artistic research point of view. So I can put my practice into my research, and that's super cool. And what I'm doing now is to trying to study this strange typology of vocal emission that basically involves both the vocal folds, so the normal folds which we use to phonate for the normal phonation, and the so-called false vocal folds, which are a little bit upper. And this situation is, you can find it in different parts of the world. So it's a very ancient way of singing. You can find in the among the Tuvans. So Tuva is a very little tiny republic in the middle of Russia, And you can find it in Sardinia, so in one of the isles in Italy, and in South Africa. And which for me is amazing to know that three totally different cultures, they have in common only maybe the fact of being shepherds, or this kind of they keep sheep and goats and this kind of animals, like in the middle of desert.
But they came to this independently, you're saying? They didn't
Apparently.
share it. They came to it. Can you demonstrate? Is that okay with you?
Yeah, sure. So if I sing normally, it's like if I add this other vocal folds, it comes like so I'm not sure.
The Zoom is eating it up a little bit. Yeah. But they use it while they're shepherding the sheep, correct?
Yeah, the
they use
aim
it
was
as
to imitate the sheep or the goats. Then, I mean, talking about this, the first step for me is the Sardinian thing, because it's nearer and all these things, of course. And now Russia is not a good idea to go to. So the first step was Sardinia. And the idea there was that they were all shepherds, but I'm talking like from the Paleolithic era, so a lot of hundreds of years ago. Probably they were imitating their own sheep or goats, and then they meet together and they form some little choirs. Basically, there are 4 men in this little, I would say choir, 4 different voices, and the bass voice and the middle one, they use this technique. The other 2 are the singing voices, the leading voices, but these 2 bass voices use this, and it's exactly the same technique that they have in tuba.
Wow.
While in tuba they're single singers, they're not like a polyphonic form of singing. They're not using this for that purpose of having, these 4 voices all together. So it's a single singer that does exactly the same technique, but involving the overtones in it. So it's something like I don't know what I can hear again. And then in the south of Africa, in South Africa, there is this community of the Xhosa women, and the technique is called, the way of singing is called umngokolo, with the click inside the name, umngokolo, and they are all women. They use dance together with this kind of phonation. It's a little bit different, but yeah, and my idea is to understand which are the common things among the 3 techniques, and to put a light on.
What's so interesting is, like, I just realized that actually Iben Rasmussen, who was co-leading the workshop in Prague of physical theater, she's one of the last, or maybe the last people to be using Grotowski's resonance exercises, right? You've probably heard of these, Felicita.
Yeah, resonators.
Resonator exercises. Yeah. So these were exercises used by Grotowski. I mean, they, in a way, for a singer, it's a little bit maybe basic, but it's basically the idea that you try to use different parts, you resonate different parts of your body to create different, I guess, colors and textures as well. So it's interesting so Elena, I know you have one big news, but I don't know, very big news, but I don't know if it's, if you're allowed. But as an artist, what have you been doing? Since I interviewed it, but you can also say the other big news.
as a person, I have been doing this.
Yes.
Because since we met in January, actually, I have to spend 5 days more in Prague because I had COVID and had this experience of quarantine in the hotel. Then during my pregnancy, I had the possibility to continue to work, and we finished the last performance of Odin Teatret. That was the premiere was the 12th of September. We have been working on it on full time in March and April last year, and in August I was involved in the preparation, since I am the musical director and I'm also the assistant director. And I was able to stay there and work with them until the very, very end of the creative process, which I'm very, very happy, and I was very lucky, because of course everything must have been done in Denmark, and I was able to travel until the 7th month, so it was perfect, simply perfect for me. And now you can guess I'm in maternity. After the 8-9 month, I was unable to play the violin because of the belly. I was simply hitting myself with the bow. And now, after she was born, Anita was born, I had some complication in my right hand because of the heaviness of the baby. I cannot play. So I'm stuck in this moment. I cannot play, but it's fine in the sense that I am allowed to be quiet. My artistic work for now, it's a little bit stopped, but the theater also is the company of Odin Teatret doesn't exist anymore.
I didn't know this.
No, because it ended up in December. We presented the performance. The company went in tournée. They have done Rome, Lecce in Italy, and then Paris. They went to Teatro du Soleil. Then they went to Brzezinska in Poland. And that was all. They closed with this last performance, which was called Thebes, the yellow fever. And then the experience of Odin Teatret can be considered ended as a company. So for now, we all the actors are like working in different projects. We are linked, of course. We do belong from the great heritage of Eugenio and Eugenio Barba, the director of Odin Teatret. But for now, we are free, and just a few of us, we are following under the great umbrella of the Nordisk Teatret Laboratorium, which is the institution that stays in Holstebro, our city in Denmark. And we continue to collaborate with this institution as artists, not as a company anymore. So for example, Roberta Guerreri, one of the greatest artists of Odin Teatret, just finished with a very big seminar of very long, also 1 month. And some of us have gone to Greenland to perform. Some of us have to go to Mexico, and I'm for now stopped, but we will soon gather again in June. Okay. And for now on, I will be a collaborator there. I will be giving workshops and seminars, as I have done with you, as an actress, a musician actress, and I don't know for now. Maybe we will be involved in some new productions, mixing with several partners. But it's very open for now.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's more like a transformation, or like it's not really
big transformation.
Yeah.
For everybody.
But it's not really the end. It's just it's a change into a different structure, maybe, or something.
It's the end of the company as the world knows it. As it was since 1964. Which is a lot.
Yeah, it was really a piece of history.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
They're still working. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I think it's hat time. So, okay, I'll start with you, Felicita. I'll take this out. Okay. Okay, this is your question, Vivian. If you engage in another art form than you usually do, how does this change? Can you express the same thing in a different medium? I added that because I think that's what you were asking. You were asking about the medium and how this would be an interesting question actually for Elena, because you've worked in these two mediums. But yeah, I think you have maybe two, Felicita, I don't know. If you do something that is, do you understand the question? Does it make sense?
Yeah.
It's not like your main art form. I'm a filmmaker, but I take up ceramics as a hobby. There are definitely both forms of like making art, but one is very different, but I'm still the artist that's creating. How does the creation differ? Anyway.
It's how does the medium affect the outcome? How does the media, I think you're going back to medium, like medium is the message, does the medium determine the message? Or can you express the same thing through different mediums, maybe? A little bit like that.
So in my idea, I think I could express the same thing with different medium. The real problem is how long do I take to be able to use that medium in a professional way, which is, of course, the way I'm using my medium. So that could be the only problem for me. Because, I could say, I could do amazing things in filmmaking, but I mean, I can't even use my mobile phone to make videos. So, but in a theoretical way, yes. Yeah. I think creativity has no limits when you're into it.
Well, you raise a good point that you're only as good as your craft. You have to start with the craft. And then this is something, and I think Elena talked a lot about when we talked, is this idea of the discipline in a craft. And you can't really go past where you are in your craft. So that's a good point. Okay, let's see.
Sorry. That at some point, maybe I will find some borders just because I'm not technically advanced for that kind of medium.
Yeah. Well, a lot of singers go into directing. At some point, or you could write a libretto,
one way is I feel like I want to paint something because I just feel. Another thing is I have no more voice because I'm so old and my muscles fail all the time. So, but you know what? Like maybe you can conduct or something like that. That's another point. Like plan B after plan A. Yeah,
but it doesn't have to be a plan B. It can be that I think maybe if you're only a performer, you can feel this urge to direct in the sense that you want to have a big more control over the bigger picture around what you're doing. Although the idea of like the artist, the performer creator, I think is more and more kind of current nowadays, especially in kind of, let's say, the avant-garde or kind of the space that you also move, Felicita, where the border between the creator and the performer is kind of blurring. I think it does at Odin as well, because you do cold improvisation, right? Where you improvise something. Yeah. So, Elena, are you there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can. Yes.
I think that here there in the old way, because now in Europe we have been really separating the crafts and arts, like we have been specializing ourselves. Some of us are very good in singing and we do opera, and then we do theater, so we write. Some of us writing, some of us applying the technique of saying and
reciting,
yes,
declaiming.
The ballet, so the dancing, and then the musicians, and we have been separating. But actually, before, the actors were total actors, like in the tradition of Eastern. Still, they are singer, they are dancer, they can tell stories, and they can perform. So in this meaning, I mean, theater is the art that can combine still inside all these differences, different craft. Of course, the important is that you have something to lay on, like, this is my craft, and with this weapon I can enter and do in different situations. And of course, what is important is to be able to do first what you to manage the craft, to manage the technique, and then with that knowledge you can enter in another medium. Of course, you cannot just pretend, and you must go through a little bit of experience of what you are doing in this other medium. But definitely, if you handle a technique, you can jump in something that is darker in another craft, but still being able to, because at the end we are all performers.
Yeah. Okay. That was really a question for both of you. I liked that. Okay, I'm getting your question now.
Okay. Felicita, poi rispondi anche tu.
Yes, you can also respond. And because this is actually a great question. If you could become a politician, what is the first policy you would change to better the lives of artists, and I would say in general the arts, like to better the arts, the situation for the arts?
Well, it depends. You mean a politician in my country or a politician in Europe?
Yes, right. It's very locally. It depends, right? Yeah, I know that Italy has its own problems, and then
Because I am an artist, I work in Denmark, and so it's one of the best places for welfare in all over the world. I mean, and there the artists are very, very taken in consideration. They are respected. They have good salaries. They are respected in the craft. For example, during COVID, the government was taking care of them, was covering their salaries, were covering their they were not alone. Instead, in Italy, we had terrible situations, because in Italy, instead, we are considered not professionals, not even workers, and so we are struggling to be considered as a category. So if I was a politician in Italy, first of all, I would start to make minimum salaries, the respect of this minimum average for everybody, the creation of a category, the creation of we have something like a pensionist pensional how to say
program, like a like a program.
But it's actually something that you will never reach, because you will be not able to reach that enough amount of money to
every month.
So
right.
in Italy, you really, I would love to start at developing of respect, recognizing, respecting, and and then applying this. I can demonstrate. I have been working as an artist for 40 days in 2 weeks, in 2 months. So the government will give me something back, In Europe, the situation is, it depends. Like, if this is a very, very strange question, because actually I'm feeling like very anarchist. I always been. I do not really believe in government as a change.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of the problem, right? Because artists think that they're totally separate, and then
I think that I would like to oblige the teaching of an art in the schools from the very, very beginning, like from the primary school. You can choose. You can do music. You can learn how to read music, or you can go to theater, or you can choose to go to ballet. But to oblige all the kids to choose an art and pass through this to little tools to understand. In this way you can definitely educate the public of the future, and in the same time you can let them not dream about to be an artist, because now we have a lot of people who want to be an artist, but actually doesn't go through the whole very, very difficult path of being. But also in this way they can relate to themselves in a different way, because sports, for example, in Italy, it's very, very taken in consideration. The kids are going to trying different sports, doing a lot of soccer, unfortunately. But instead they are not also because the consideration that the public has about artists, like music is a loss of time. You can do that, but it's not ballet. The girls do ballet, so a kind of obligation of an hour of art every week, not 3 hours of art.
It really starts with with education. It's totally, the longer I think about it, the more I think that's really the most important thing. Okay, well, thank you so much, Felicita. And it's very short, and I knew it was going to be like this, but that's just the way the stream is structured, that it's just very quick. So thank you so much for being here, and I hope that we can maybe have a more in-depth conversation some other time.
Right.
Okay. Take care.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Okay. And now we have Darja and Helena coming in. Darja is an artist. Hello, Darja.
Hi.
Hi.
Thank you for inviting.
Is an artist, and Helena is a singer and psychiatrist.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Darja is from Ukraine, but she's living in Prague right now, right? You're in Prague, like me. And Helena, and Helena is from Croatia originally, but living in Germany, correct?
Right.
Yes. All right. So the way that this is going to go, like I said in all of my emails, is that I would like you just to tell me what you've been doing since I interviewed you. What are your projects that you're working on now? What are you excited about? I'll start with Darja.
Yeah, it was actually one of the most active years in my practice. And it's very surprising because this year also like the most challenging or the most traumatizing to me. The project we were talking about, the bread, I was making it after this for probably 4 times. So it was very like important. It appeared to be very important project to me. And I keep doing my research on bread and improving myself in bread making. Actually, I think that everyone I'm doing after it getting better and better. So I think this project we were talking about became in some way like very significant, and I was glad that I was talking with you about it, and we met around it, and we had a chance to touch it and to see it, to smell it, and to experience it in a material way. I mostly, like, my main mission was not to get completely nuts, I think, this year, and like I hope not to be like very over optimistic, but I think I managed. So for me, it's a big achievement, and something like this I plan for this year too. So nothing global, I think, but a lot of projects are going its natural way. So I'm excited.
Yeah. Can you just say this bread project, because for those that maybe didn't see your episode, it's a fascinating project. Can you just say very quickly what it was?
Yeah, sure thing. So I found very interesting to discover more Ukrainian ancient bread called palenitsa. The name of this bread also is shibboleth, which is a word firstly used in Bible, which means some magical word. Pronunciation by it can help you to understand, are you talking to a friend or an enemy? So I tried to discover more about this recipe, and I did some my small research. My small investigation actually found the fragments of this ancient bread recipe and trying to recreate it over the year, and inviting different people to taste it, to share family stories, about trauma or some hidden memories, maybe some pressured memories. And yeah, it's still going. And I found also that maybe one of the best ways for me, like to build the communication, is around the table with the food, around the table with bread.
Yeah. And you said that everyone, no matter where they come from, they usually have some story about bread, or some maybe there's something very connected to home about bread for a lot of people, right?
Exactly. Like the bread itself appeared to be very inviting gesture. So firstly, I was asking people like to share or maybe to try to start a conversation. But then I found out that just the presence of the bread actually stimulates people to share their stories and feel comfortable and to feel welcome or in some kind of safe environment. So I found this magical side of the bread, or bread magic. And before I thought that my tool to start the communication is maybe invite people to make them a portrait. This was my like life hack from the past. I was building my communication, but now I found out that actually invite people for a bread. It's maybe even more, more friendly.
And actually, there was another thing that you did with this bread, right? That was very kind of special to the project, correct? Or did you not do that with
yes,
every
yes.
iteration?
Like there's few layers on it. Of course, the one
Yeah.
has its family stories and so on, but another one, it had some special ingredient, which was soil collected in the first day of full-scale invasion in Kiev. So it had this big context, big political context of ongoing war in Ukraine. So by sharing this bread, I actually shared my experience, but also was creating some kind of social sculpture and test it or experiment and communicate with people through this gesture. Yeah. And maybe what was the bigger like topic around it is this decolonization processes, which were not very much discussed in the context of countries which were under Soviet occupation. But after 2022, it became like a valid topic. So my project somehow it's contributing to this discussion and to this very, very new and fresh discourse.
Okay. I wish you could talk more about this, but if to anyone who wants to know more about the Bread Project, there's a episode with on Artists on the Verge, just with Darja, and there's also some at the beginning. I put some pictures, images of the installation. So sorry, we have to go to Helena just quickly. If you can, Helena, say what you've been, because your episode was actually quite recent. Can you just say what you've been working on since we spoke?
Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me into this podcast. Happy birthday, and wishing you a lot of success in the future. I just wanted to tell that in the meantime, I was more into this not only classical contemporary repertoire, but also conventional repertoire, like a concert program, masses and oratorio, and I have been doing some concerts. And also parallelly, I was preparing a certain concept that will be very interesting. Actually, I'm now working very hard in order to write a grant for this upcoming project, and hopefully I will get some kind of positive like feedback information. And it is actually a project, operative project, linked to destigmatization of mental disease. So this opera will it is really recently composed opera from American composer Ken Shakin. He also lives in Berlin. He works there for years and years. And he actually came to this idea to help me with my concept, because we talked about this issue of destigmatizing mental illness in society, and it is unfortunately worldwide this kind of concept that is needed. And with this new composed opera, we will actually be acting and singing about this thematic the stigmatizing mental disease, and also actually in this show, the doctor who works in psychiatry will be like a person who completely understands and accepts and presents himself or herself as a person who also suffers from certain mental disease, because to have some kind of rapid changes and facing challenges in this very difficult profession, it can also lead to certain problematics. And it is completely normal, because a lot of persons who work in this profession, they are very easily depleted. And many of them are actually covering up any kind of symptomatics. So we'll try to equalize this problematic as ours, but also as problematic of our patients, and that it can be quite normally exposed in society and normally accepted like any other kind of a chronic disease, like diabetes or high blood pressure. So all of these diseases are actually under this requirement that they're regularly checked up and of course regularly treated, and it functions really very well when it is maintained under very good control. So it is same with mental illness. As long as it is accepted in society, then people who are affected with this kind of problematics, they actually accept much better the treatment and take medicament intake and regular control by their psychiatrist or psychotherapist, depending of structure of the disease. But the main point with this opera that will be hopefully discovered in summer this year, the main point is actually to help our society to have a better understanding for mental disease, and of course not to make the difference between any kind of chronic illness, like from those illnesses like cancer or high blood pressure. Acceptance is the first point of everything. So yes, as long as something is accepted, of course there will be much better possibilities to treat the illness, and for those people who are affected, that they are accepted and they can function normally, they can go to work normally, and of course develop their hobbies and function very well in their families. So yes, that is the point of the opera.
Yes. I think in very different ways, both Darja and Helena, you are both trying to communicate. And I know that in your bio, I called you, Darja, also a communicator, because you're so good at communicating with an audience about this thing that is so important to you, and which you have luckily been able to have a real voice in here, at least in the Czech Republic, which is Ukrainian art, especially during the war. Which is something that very few other people, I think, are documenting and really trying to raise awareness of. And Helena, you are raising awareness of something. And one thing I want to say is that when you say mental disease, which you're talking, that also means PTSD, right? And I know that in Croatia, there's a huge, in compared to the rest of Europe, and in Serbia, there's a very high rate of PTSD because of the civil war that happened there. I've heard that. You talked about your experiences in the war as a child, and all this. And what I just wanted to say, since both Helena and Darja are here, you've both been affected by wars actually in your lifetime. It's not, quote unquote, just the war. It's what stays inside people, and sometimes it can take decades or even generations. Yes,
it is true. Yeah. Because all of these people whom I communicated with while I worked in Croatia, they were people in their 40s, 50s, mostly, who were active in Croatian war. And of course, most of them had PTSD, but what comes after war, not only PTSD, but it has so bad impact on general health. So most of them passed away from cancer. So, and cancer really doesn't come like that. And they had certain types of cancer after the war. So they led very stressful life. After that, and of course, any kind of stress, it is not scientifically proved, but also it is just a very difficult contributing factor to enhance cancer. So, fortunately, it is also that part of the problematic. And also the family of the person affected with PTSD also suffered a lot, especially young children. They actually observed this situation by their parent who got seriously mentally ill during the war, and they cannot help. They can just love, understand, and it is very hard. So without a deep understanding from side of the society, it is very hard to make any kind of new steps. It should be really accepted and talked about and presented in art, because art is a very, very, it is just powerful tool, like powerful media to present something, and in this way it can be much better accepted. So I will also have some thematic about PTSD, but it is in future. I hope that I will develop some kind of scientific work in future. So I may also write a paper about that, but it is in far away future, maybe just in 2 years probably. But I'm very interested in this topic, and I would really love to develop it and to share with audience. It is just the main point, to make some necessary changes in our society, slowly, gradually, but effectively.
Well, you wouldn't be a psychiatrist if you didn't believe that it was possible, right? To do so, to help people, even when they're trapped in their minds.
Actually, I started to believe it quite early, and I was probably around 11 years old. But till that age, I already tasted a fragment of the war, so I didn't even know what concrete was in psychiatry as a profession. But I didn't have visualization at that age that I would be like a psychiatrist. Yes, I had wished to become a doctor, yes, but psychiatrist, it was abstract for me. But I always admired mental health and human soul, to make more research, to read about that. But when I realized that I really want to do psychiatry, I have developed very much empathy and understanding. And without this kind of dimension, it wouldn't be really possible to work in this profession, because one really needs very thick nerves to work and to understand, to accept, and of course to accept myself in this profession, because I'm also a human. I can also react sometimes quite inappropriate, because it is very exhausting profession. But but people forgive me, because I know how to apologize, and I say, yes, it was my mistake. I'm just a human. I'm not a god or universum or anything else. But yeah, I'm only a human, but a human that has very big passion for mental health disorders and to help this kind of people. And it really makes me feel very well when I do something constructive in order to help these people.
Okay, well, Darja and Helena, we actually ran over our time, so I don't know if we have time to do one question for each. It's so frustrating. I think this is really just like a revolving door of artists, and I knew it was going to be that way. But I tell everyone when they leave, I hope that we can have a more in-depth conversation, maybe on a live stream some other time that's focused on just a few people. So this is just to sort of introduce you to people, just very, very, very shortly. I will give you one question for each of you, and I'm hoping that you can maybe like spend 15 seconds if you can do it, because we're already 2 minutes over.
Okay.
Oh, this is interesting. Okay, this is not one I would necessarily envision for. What are some of the positive and negative ways that the internet has impacted your life as an artist?
For myself, I wouldn't even say that it impacted it in a bad way. Actually, I have done a lot of work in this era, and I had much more possibilities because the digitalization led to this point where I could present my work much easier and communicate it very well with certain individuals and get the work done. So I didn't feel any kind of restrictions. Yes, in vivo is much more beautiful to do something because it is unforgettable, but also internet has also very good dimensions, I can say. So I think it impacted very well, but on the other hand, yes, in vivo is also something very beautiful for us all.
Darja?
I was thinking about, I will start with good one. I was thinking about as a person who get in contact with computers, like in internet in very early age. I do actually believe in digital intimacy. And I feel very comfortable to stay in contact with a lot of people through internet and without actually like physical or like presence or physical contact for a long time. And I can't imagine actually like how I will keep myself sane without this tool, because there are so many people I communicating only through this medium. And negative, it's probably, it is also my source of anxiety. And I never had experience like this before the last year. I think I'm spending 4 hours only my smartphone screen time daily. And I'm reading incredible amount of very, very sensitive news. And it's for me, it's some without like connection to actually like this time, it will sounds like kind of social experiments or so, because it's sounds like very harmful way to spend time. But also I kind of got into this like anxiety trap or like media trap, and I'm starting like to analyze it or maybe trying to find a way to control it. But yeah, from negative side, it's my anxiety main source.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's a good answer. But you're also, you are a communicator, and I think today it's impossible to communicate with people without the internet. So unfortunately, and also a lot, I remember going to your lecture on Ukrainian art during the war. So much, well, all of it actually was shared on the internet. That's how people were able to even access it, right?
Exactly. So, like not only intimacy, but solidarity is possible through the internet. And I actually feel so much support via internet, which keep me feel like very heartwarming and safe as much as possible. So of course I would not like make negative side prevail on the positive one, because this is like very important source of comfort too.
Right. And of course, here we are on the internet right now, streaming.
And we very much support you as well. Like I didn't get a chance to properly chat, but my name's Vivian. I'm Estonian. Everywhere I see there are Ukrainian flags. We are just like
here too. Yeah.
gosh, there's so much support going on all over the place. I can't believe what you've gone through in the past year, and the fact that you're here and speaking about it and making art about it is the definition of a miracle in terms of your own craft. And just, yeah, so
thank you so much.
Yes.
It's all making very big sense for me, but also for friends of mine. Like sometimes it's easy to feel like desperate or like that everyone forget or gave up or so. But then like every like small mention or every even small gesture of support actually making such a big difference. Sometimes I'm just sending photos to my friends of people putting flags in the windows in Europe, and it's actually made them feel supported and happy, because sometimes it can feel different, and it's always nice to have a small reminder that it's better than it feels sometimes.
that's good to hear.
So, thank you so much, Darja, and I hope that we talk more deeply, profoundly about this soon. It's too short, honestly, but there you have it.
Thank you for, as always, amazing communication. And Vivian, I hope we will have a chance to talk more one day.
Yeah, that would be
Yes.
great. Yeah, thank you. It was nice to
the
meet
rest
you.
of stream.
Bye-bye. All right, so Omar Shahryar should be coming on, or was supposed to come on at 8:30, right? Am I right?
Okay.
I think
Yes,
so.
I think
Yeah,
so.
and you're supposed to switch. He was supposed to be the new, well, co-host, but I realized that you didn't get a word in edgewise, and that's I
it's all
kind
right.
of I hope it's okay with you. It really is, like, it's totally helpful to me, like that you're here.
Good.
I promise.
No, I had a great time listening in on conversations, and I am very, very grateful that you wanted to include me in it. So,
Well,
shall
I
make
wouldn't
this
couldn't
upstairs?
imagine it otherwise. I don't know where he is, because he's very active on the chat, but he might have felt like we hadn't wrapped up yet. So I'm going to write into the chat. Hey Omar, come join join me on Zoom. And I'm yeah, it's not going to make sense to other people on the chat, because he's chatting as Opera Schmopra, which is the name Schmopra, which is the name of his ensemble.
Excellent.
But so this will be a non sequitur, but let me see. I'll go ahead and send it.
Good idea.
It's not sending.
Is there anything else on the chat? Like, is there...
So actually, Omar said a bunch of things but there's just so much going on that I wasn't sure. There, yeah. So, yeah, he said, it's me. Okay. Okay. So I guess he's coming on. Yes, it's your turn, Omar. And he did say on the chat, is it also why film is more entertaining? But I don't know what he was referring to. So maybe,
yes.
Maybe
whatever
we can.
It is, definitely. Definitely.
I'm gonna admit Omar, and maybe we can ask him ourselves.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Are you there?
Omar. Excellent.
Hello. Are you there, sir?
I mean, the profile picture is real colorful, so
yes.
Step number one in terms of engagement.
Are you there? I know he was putting his child to sleep, but I doubt that that's what's going on. Anyway, dear Omar, what did you mean by that?
You in the void.
He's thinking about his answer.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, I'm concentrating so hard on like making sure that I'm. Can you guys hear me? You can.
Yes.
Hear me.
Yes.
Weird thing where I'm watching it, so I can hear you 20 seconds in the past, but I can see you now.
Okay. Well, you have to turn the stream off, like the stream off. Yeah, you're not gonna be able to do that. That must be really disconcerting.
Cool. We're good, and I am here. I'm so here.
Yay.
You can see me.
There you are. Hello.
Oh my god. I'm wearing these headphones. I don't even need them. Hi guys. I'm so
Great.
sorry.
Hi.
Hi.
Piece of brilliance. What was I talking about?
So you were saying a bunch of stuff in the chat, and I'm sorry, but I was not able to like
I was having
react to it during the conversation. So you said, and this is for Vivian, probably, is it also why film is more entertaining? So I think Vivian must have been saying something, or I don't know.
I always say something.
Yeah, you were saying something very profound, the two of you, about the image and forcing the image of the viewer onto whatever you want them to see. And I thought, that's probably why it's less taxing as a viewer myself. I love, my favorite form of entertainment is movies. I would not go to the opera necessarily to be entertained. And but yeah, I just wondered if that could be why. It's kind of like you're taking away the options and making it easier for me as a viewer.
It's very, very different watching movies growing up and becoming a filmmaker myself, because to me, it's about control. Like, it's about controlling what the audience does, which is a very sort of meticulous, craft-forward answer for you. But in terms of an audience member, I actually get more immersed within theater sometimes, because now I have like all of these technical things inside my brain that is like, he's used this shot. Why is this thing in the foreground and not in the background? Why is the actor in like the edge of the frame? Is he trying to, like, I unpick it in real time. Gosh. And in theater, I was an actor in live theater and a singer, but I never directed anything. So I have no idea what anybody's doing, really. I can try to guess the psychological things, but I'm a very bad person to ask this to, because I sometimes even find, engaging theater, I suppose, more entertaining, because there are obviously good and bad types of theater and film according to each of our tastes. You know what? I'm gonna skedaddle because Emma's face.
Okay.
Like,
No. It's not. It's this is exactly why I needed co-hosts, because I was currently figuring out if I had sent the live stream link to the participant who should already be on the live stream, which is Gale. My father, Richard Katrovas, has been hanging out here in the waiting room for the past 20 minutes.
Well, he's well prepared, as is his daughter. I'm gonna skedaddle.
Okay, bye, Vivian. Thank you so much. We are in touch.
Omar.
Lovely to meet
and
you,
have
Vivian.
a great rest of the stream. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Hello. So it's 4 minutes past when we were already supposed to have finished our little conversation about you and what you've been doing. Are you game to shift it to the end, possibly?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
I'm game for everything.
Okay. Can you maybe, I don't know, no one's been complaining about this. Have you been hearing people all right during the stream when you were listening? Okay, everyone? Because I hear everyone pretty faintly, but maybe it's just because I have opera singer ears and I just don't hear very well anymore. Because I've been blasting my ears with. So let's move it, I guess, to the end. Jim is going to be coming on at the end, so we can just we can do two. Well, look, it's 2 hours and 30 minutes or 2 hours and 40 minutes. It really doesn't make any difference to me at this point, if you're okay with it.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm cool.
So we're going to hope that my father just wrote me, and my American father just wrote me in check saying I'm here. Okay.
That's good.
Let me admit, Richard Katrovas. He was, I think this was it was actually a strange time when I interviewed my father, because it was right at the beginning of the war in Ukraine. And the reason I even shared the interview, because my father isn't exactly like an indie artist, because he works for a university. He's a professor. So technically he didn't really fit the profile. However, can you, do you hear us? And can you put on your video?
Yeah, and I thought it was on. Forgive me. Let me see here.
Yes.
Oh, God. Here we go. Start video. Here we go.
Yeah.
That should do it.
There we go. And yep. Oh, this is quite the ambiance you got going.
I'm sorry about that.
This works. Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Okay. So this is normally the way that it was supposed to go, but things got shifted, which is just how it goes. Normally how it was supposed to go was that I was going to talk to Omar about his projects and pull a question out of the hat with him, but we're shifting that to the end, so it makes it a little bit awkward, because if if the audience is new to the podcast, they haven't met you. And the truth is, I really wanted you to open the podcast with me. That didn't work out time-wise because you were the very first guest to the podcast. Omar was the very first guest. 13th of January 2021, this came out. Our episode. I didn't plan it this way, but it's exactly 2 years ago. So you've had 2 years now, and I'm really fascinated to hear everything that you've done since then. But going to you, Father, the way that this works is that I'm just going to ask you. Oh, here's Kate. Kate Gale just came in. Yep, here she is. So I'll just wait for her to sign on, and then I'll restart and explain it to her, although I've written it into the email. But hello, Kate. How are you? Can you say something so that I can know if I hear you?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Good. So I was just saying the way that this goes. I already said this. I say it at the beginning of every segment, and I said it in the email. I'm just going to ask you, what have you been up to since I've interviewed you, and what are you excited about now? You each should get around 5 minutes for that. We're already kind of shifted, but that's okay. So around 2 to 5 minutes. And then I have this hat, and I'm going to pull a very more general question out of this lovely hat.
What a charming hat.
So I'm just going to start with you, Father, because it's weird to call you Richard. So I'm going to start with you, Richard. What have you been doing since I interviewed you? That was in December. I think I interviewed you in December of last year.
Yeah, I've had 2 books come out. The from LSU Press, Poets and the Fools Who Love Them, and a book of poems from Carnegie Mellon called The Woman with a Cat on Her Shoulder. And I'm up to my eyebrows in a new project about love and romance, because everyone wants to know what a 69-year-old white man thinks about love and romance. So I'm going for it, So yeah, love, romance, and poetry, and I'm having great fun writing it. So that's what I'm doing.
Cool. So that's great. So I'll move on to you, Kate, now, and you can take a little longer because we're kind of we're shifted on time, but.
I had a new book that came out this year about Medusa and about the women's movement and about what's been happening to women, which is actually a lot happened to women in 2022 in the United States. So it was about women and shaming and women finding a voice for themselves in spite of all of this. So that book is called The Loneliest Girl, and it's been crushing it. I've been doing a lot. I did a lot of events in 2022, and I expect to continue in 2023. And I'm also working on a libretto for the soprano Hila Plitman about Esther. So it's called Esther, and it's on the biblical story Esther, which interestingly is the only biblical story that doesn't mention Jesus, God, any of the deities. It's just sort of a standalone story, which is a rather strange biblical story, and may not actually have any basis in reality. I think most of the biblical stories are tied to something that could have actually happened. I'm not really sure about Noah's Ark, but I think most of them are tied to something, and there probably was a flood like the one we're having on the West Coast that started the idea of Noah's Ark. But Esther, they're really not sure if that whole thing is just made up. But it clearly is a story that in the Hebrew mythology, is about women being able to stand up for themselves. And so I am very excited about it, and I think it's a very timely kind of a story, because I think this is a time when women are interested in the ways in which we can stand up for ourselves. So I'm very excited to be working on this Esther libretto.
Cool. I'm having a little bit of a hard time hearing you, Omar. Are you hearing Kate okay?
I'm here. You're a bit faint, Kate.
Yeah.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, you can, if you can just put it up a little bit.
I can hear her. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I just really can't hear well.
It sounds very interesting, Kate. I want to tell you. I'm looking forward to reading it.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, the reason I put Richard and Kate together in the artist pod that I'm creating these pairs out of everyone is because they're the only two writers I've interviewed, actually. And you know each other, obviously. So is it hat time? Does it feel like hat time to you?
Yeah. Let's do the hat.
Okay. I'll start with, let's do it opposite. I'll start with Kate. Is that okay? Okay. What is a source of inspiration to your practice that comes from an art form other than yours? And some examples might be a sculptor who's inspired by music, or a writer inspired by visual art, or something like that.
Well, I mean, the obvious is music for me, because I do write librettos to opera, so I like listening to music. Although I don't listen to opera as much as I think people might think. I like listening to music a lot. The music, I would say that the two pieces of music or musicians that I listen to the most are not alike at all. I listen to Handel because I grew up with Handel, and so I don't know why I come back to Handel, and Nina Simone. Both of them, I don't know why, but sort of inspire me in weird opposite ways. But I like listening to music when I'm writing, and I think that that music it awakens something deep for us as writers, and I think that most writers have favorite music that they listen to when they're writing. But I do also really like getting out to art galleries as well, and that's one thing I've kind of missed during the pandemic and look forward to going back to.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, Omar, you're also a librettist, right? You've also written your own librettos. Is that the case? Even though you're more a composer.
Yeah, unwillingly, I'd say. I wrote my first libretto for the first opera I ever wrote, and then I learned my lesson to never do that again.
Okay.
So I much prefer to work with others, and the bounding ideas off of each other is it's more than the sum of its parts, you know. So I do prefer to not do that, but I also love to feed into like as I say, exchanging of ideas. But I was just curious, Kate. Like, do you listen to music while you write? Like, does one literally feed into the other, kind of, in the process?
When I'm writing librettos to operas, I'm definitely listening to opera music, because I feel like, in fact, a lot of times the composer has given me a list of opera music that I am supposed to be listening to. And they have like this long list of stuff that I'm supposed to listen to. And then I follow my instructions, because I'm supposed to listen to specific music. And I'm always hoping that Wagner is not on the list.
Oh, really? But has it been?
It's okay.
Oh, sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes Wagner, because it's like, come on. I mean, to me, that's just like a bit much that I'm having to listen to the Ride of the Valkyries while I'm writing something.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So,
sorry, I'm interested to know what, in terms of like a romantic poetry thing, Richard, like, are you listening to all the things from your, like, I don't know, love, like, love music from life? Or what
No. The man who hath no music in his soul is fit for stratagems and spoils, and alas, 'tis I.
Wow. Gosh.
No, I think I love the idea of music more than I love music. But I find myself referencing it a lot now in what I'm writing, you know, but it's more, you know, in the spirit of kind of atrocious nostalgia for I'm writing about the 80s, mostly 80s and 70s and 80s, and so that music of my youth is coming forward, and blasting through my old noggin. But I am not one of those writers like Kate who will listen to music while I work, but I know much better writers than I am who do that. I'm thinking of Stuart Dybek. My good friends of mine like Stu Dybek, and I know Jamie Gordon, and I think even Trish Hampel. I think all and so many other writers will listen to music, but most of them are much more aficionados of music than I am, and so I mean that's not too much of an answer, but that's
a real answer. I'm funnily enough, I'm more like you, Richard.
Yeah.
I shun all music whilst I'm writing music. I
That
actually listen to grey noise.
Well, I mean, I think Kate will understand this as a writer. I mean, how she. I mean, everybody works differently. There's idiosyncrasy involved in this process, but there's a musicality to language that I, for one, must. I have to mute the world in order to hear it, and to hear the music of the language I'm trying to compose, and it sounds precious, but still that's the case. I need to hear that music that's embedded in the language that I'm trying to muster,
I shouldn't do this, but I do want to ask before I pull the final question out of the hat for you, Richard. Every time I say your name, I shudder. It's not your. When you write for the voice, I mean, how much do you think about singability or what works in music as lyrics and music? Because a lot of when you read the supposedly great lyrics, they are sometimes quite empty without the music. Unless I'm mistaken, unless that's just me, my mind playing tricks on me. But it seems like it's a special kind of skill to be able to write language for music or text for music.
May I say something? I know you're asking. You weren't asking me, right? But
yeah.
Come around to me and let me say something about that.
Okay.
Oh, you weren't asking Richard. Were you asking me?
No. I was asking Kate.
Yeah. Okay.
So most of the librettos, maybe all the librettos I've written have these, and Omar, I'd love to know if this is your experience as well, but they have these specific arias that will have some kind of rhyme. Sometimes it's just a slant rhyme, but there's some type of rhyme embedded in them, and they are like these carefully written arias. And then there's a lot of other parts of the libretto that are much looser. And so what I'm talking about in terms of these carefully written arias, they're I don't know. I mean, I think that for the composer, they're the big parts of the opera, because not every single part of the entire opera is going to have that kind of carefully woven libretto. And so they'll go through and they'll say to me, like, the love duet right here, I want this to be a love duet. And then, they're walking down the street here, that's just kind of some singing, right? And then there's this little duet between the parents when they find out that these two are in love, maybe they're sad, maybe they're happy, whatever it is. There's another duet. So there's specific duets and like that. So with everything that I'm writing, I am singing along to myself as I'm writing it and making sure it feels like it sings. Now, the first opera that I ever wrote, I did all that work singing along, and then it got translated into Spanish, and then I had to go along and kind of do that again. So I was singing along, cucaracha, la cucaracha, again, because I had already written it in English, and the cockroach didn't have the same ring anyway. La cucaracha, la cucaracha. And so I had wasted all my singing time on English, and now I had to sing it again. But the other thing is that the composer, God damn them, has done a lot of chopping to my beautiful words. So no matter how much singing along you do, there is much scissoring that's going to take place. So regardless, though, I write, I sing. I write, I sing. Because to me, if I cannot hear the musicality in the language, then there might not be any. So that's my answer.
Great. I'm going to make an executive decision and say you're not going to get a question from the hat, and you said that you wanted to say something on the subject, and then we'll call it a day, a segment. Yeah, you, Richard. Sorry, I just don't want to call you Richard, and I don't know if I should call you Father.
No, I know. I appreciate everything. Certainly everything that Kate was saying. I've just been thinking. I've been thinking about music. I just yesterday was writing about, again, we're talking about the 70s, segueing into the 80s. I was thinking about disco and then the ascent of rap, and so I was thinking about thinking about the relation of music to language, and and so much has been said about that, and I spent a number of years writing songs, as you may recall, Emma, with Bruce Donnelly.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that.
Died a few years ago. I went to LA to make my fame and fortune as a songwriter in the early 70s and failed utterly.
Totally forgot about that.
Path I am now. So, we had some, Pyrrhic victories, but nothing great, obviously. But so I've thought a lot about it, and from pop music up, but I have very little knowledge of classical music, and certainly of opera. Though I'd like to say that I would love the opportunity to try my hand at a libretto sometimes. But that notwithstanding, in my thinking about lyric, for the idea of lyric, for example, I go back to Aristotle. I go back to the three kinds of poetry. And and the idea that lyric, strictly speaking, is that which is accompanied by a lyre, and so the idea that the real lyric poets of our time are well, I think they're stand-up comics mostly, but also obviously anyone who picks up a guitar and sings a song, and writes a song. You're a lyric poet in the ancient sense of that word. What we are now as poets is something else, and it's grounded in nostalgia. It's a much more complex thing that we are, cultural phenomenon than I think we give it credit for being. And I don't want to go off any more than just saying that. And so in meditating on the relation of words to music in song, I've been traversing the same rhetorical landscape that most folks do who think about this stuff. But I've tried to take it somewhere else as well, and maybe someday, if anyone's interested, they can read this stuff. Anyway, I'm sorry to go on.
Okay. Well, these are such short segments to have any kind of serious conversation, and so I'm getting ideas for future live stream that will be more focused on a theme, and maybe we can have an actual conversation. But thank you so much, Kate and Richard. Every time. Father, for being on here. I'm glad that I could introduce Kate to Omar and Omar to Kate, because you all are kind of in a little bit of the same field, but in very different places, because you're based in Paris now, right? Omar, and you're in California. So thank you so much for being on. I got to let the next two guests on now.
Okay, thank you very much. Kate,
thank you.
Take care of yourself. Nice meeting you guys. Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay.
Just to let you know, there's been a little request. I think maybe you are louder than anyone else.
Okay.
The microphone, that is to say. So there's someone on YouTube chat was saying.
Oh, okay.
You sound a bit lower.
Who's? That I sound loud?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me change that then. I'm just having a hard time hearing in anyone, but I'm gonna just let me just take myself down then. Is this better, chat?
That sounds good to me.
Thank you for keeping an eye on that. Emma, would you mind putting your sound a bit lower? Great. Okay, that's my sister. All right. Okay, so I put it like 20% lower. Hi, Deish, and hi, Cassandra.
Hello.
Hi. So I'm here with my co-host Omar Shahryar. Hopefully, maybe you checked out his episode. I don't know. I've just realized that as I was putting 4 people together on the stream, or I guess 3 people, they often didn't know each other at all, and I was just throwing them in. So it's just the awkwardness of this format.
I love it.
Yeah. So this is going to be very quick, but because you're the last kind of guest pair, we can be a little bit more relaxed, even though we're starting considerably late, actually. So actually, the reason I put Deish and Cassandra into the same artist pod is because you share a very strange thing in common, which is totally personal to me, and that is that you both let me stay at your place at a certain point when I needed to. Do you remember that, Cassandra? At the end of college? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I was breaking up with my boyfriend. And I stayed with you. And then Deish, because I couldn't find a place for the life of me in Lyon, because as Omar probably knows, who lives also in Paris, it's really difficult to find housing in France. I was able to stay with Deish short notice. So that's what you have in common. But you're also singers of very different kinds of music, but I would say that of a kind of popular music, you could say that there's a kind of popular aspect to it, maybe. Maybe Deish doesn't agree. I don't know. Okay, so Deish, I'll just start with Deish since you're on my left, so it kind of makes sense to me. Will you? So just tell me. I know that you said that you haven't been able to do much since we talked because it was not long ago. Excuse me. But if you could just say, what projects have you been trying to get off the ground since the last couple of months?
Yeah, it's been such a long time. Yes, it's only two months, right? Let's say I'm trying to write lyrics. It's the first time in my life. It's quite new. I'm discovering my words in French and Turkish and let's say in French. My lovely group, they helped me to write some lyrics in French, and we are discovering right now what we want to do, like artists, let's say.
That's activists who make artists who make what? Active artists, activists.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, another reason sorry.
And, today it was a hard day for me. And the happiness is this invitation. Thank you, Emma.
Okay. Sorry, another reason I needed a co-host is because I just had a coughing fit and I was worried about that. Anyway, I didn't hear you very well, Deish, but I'm hoping that Omar can react. So
I can hear
okay.
You, Deish, yeah.
Okay. So I'll go to you, Cassandra, with the same question. What have you been up to? I know that it's been a lot. I know there was a novel involved, actually. No?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So last fall, I put out an EP and a book, my first book. And since then, I actually got a promotion at my job, which is a singing pop rock job, which is really cool. But I'm in an administrative as well as a performing role, which is really cool.
Wait a minute. You've got a job which is administrative and performing?
Yes.
Amazing.
That's like the dream.
It's something or other. So my promotion makes me the youngest woman entertainment director in the history of my field, which makes me very happy and excited.
Which field is that?
Specifically like the piano bar dueling pianos thing.
Piano bar dueling. Wow. Yeah. Cool.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It's been a challenge, but an honor. And then I'm working on my second book right now and my second EP.
great. And how was the first book? Like, what did you get? Good reviews?
It was self-published, but everybody who bought it, I did make some money off of it, but everybody who got it seemed to enjoy it, except for my parents, because there are a lot of bad words in it.
Oh, okay.
Because it was all about them. No, it's good.
Yes. So trying to keep busy, but yeah, everything's pretty good otherwise.
Great. And so I know, Deishu said that you would maybe sing for us. And I know, Cassandra, I think I saw an email from you saying that you didn't prepare for that. So we can just...
I did not.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. I know that you did so much live streaming during the pandemic where you were just at the piano, you were taking suggestions from people, because that's like what you do. You have to be on your feet, and people are just will say a song that you have to know, and then you have to perform it, right? You have to have like a huge...
Yeah, I could scoot the computer over. I just don't know how good the audio would be because I didn't do the whole schmancy
It's all right. It's all right. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah, it's fine. But Deishu said that you would maybe perform something. So maybe do you want to do it instead of getting a question from the hat, or in addition?
Maybe why not a question?
Okay. So we'll go Deish Cassandra with the questions. Okay.
Love it.
All right. Here's yours. Oh, that's okay. What non-artistic line of work is most like the work of artists, i.e., doctors because they heal people, or teachers because they teach people, or ... Does that question make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
This question.
Yes. That was your question that I pulled from the
Yeah,
hat.
I think my job right now, it's kind of artistic job, let's say. I'm designing, I'm designing kitchens and bathrooms and dressings and all these indoor areas.
Is that for personal or public spaces?
Personal and sometimes hotels and restaurants and commercial place. Other than that, why not? But I mean, before this job, I was a wine cellar. I think it was kind of artistic job as well. I don't know what else we can say. Good question. I'm gonna think of it.
It's a very big philosophical. It's a very big philosophical question. I realize. I've always thought of that myself. I think it's just one of those things that I've always wondered about, and I wanted to pose it to someone. So, do you want a new question, Cassandra? What?
Wine cellar was a good one.
Oh, either or. I'm up for whatever.
Okay, I'll pull this out of the hat.
Right.
I'll pull a new one. Okay. Okay. I would kind of want Omar to answer this one as well. How would you explain to a child why the arts are important?
Boy.
Omar, do you want to go first?
Yeah. Okay. I remember hearing, this is not my line, I saw it in a movie of Scheherazade and the 1001 Arabian Nights, and someone said very profoundly with some stirring music, stories teach us how to live. I thought, yeah, that's it. Art teaches us how to live and how to manage how we live, I think, a little. Sometimes if you watch too much of the same, if you listen to too much Radiohead, you will think that life goes in one way. Same if you listen to too much Metallica or Tool. And if you listen to too much Wagner, you'll go in a really different way. But if you listen to it all and you learn how all of this stuff can live together, then it as in exist in the same world, then yeah, art teaches us how to live.
Cool.
I love it. I think if I were to, I've actually been not exactly in your wording, but wrestling with some semblance of that idea for a while, because I'm still teaching despite my performing stuff. And I have students from age 12 through getting into college right now, music school, and kind of talking about that a lot with them. For me personally, and there's a very delicate way that you can talk about this with young people, but life can be very challenging at times. You never know what it's going to throw at you. And I think that music, as with all the arts, is a great way to process feelings, which can lead to being a healthier person, I think. If you can sit down with a canvas, or you can sit down with a composition, or, any type of thing that's inside of you that doesn't feel like healthy, then you can find a way to express it. And then through storytelling as well. I read a great book recently called Use Your Delusion, which is all about how humans tell each other stories to keep ourselves alive. And I think maybe that's not the best way to talk to a child about. It's a little dark.
We tell ourselves stories in order to live. That's Joan Didion. Yeah.
Although I do think it is true. I've been reading a lot about stuff about not confinement, the thing they do in prisons where they send solitary confinement, and the inability to connect, engage, and therefore, to tell the story of your life and hear the other stories, kills the social part of our brain, which means you are not able to be social ever again. And that's for those who've been in social isolation for 30 years or so in the prison system. So literally they are not able to function as normal human beings because they cannot tell those little stories that we tell about ourselves and how our day was and stuff. So it does literally keep you kind of awake, alive, engaged with the world. So.
Yeah, and on a happier note too, you can still use, like you're saying, storytelling or creative expression to remember things that make you happy or bring back good memories and things like that too. It's just I think it's in our on a cellular level. For survival and joy and processing everything. So for a kid, I'd just be like, hey, that's your playground. Go for it. Find everything you can find, every treasure you can find there.
I guess the next question would be, how would you tell a politician why it's important to support the arts? It might be easier to tell a child.
Yeah.
The level of understanding. Actually, the child's might be better, I have to say. Sorry, Daesh, you were about to say something.
For kids, I was trying to add something to Cassandra. Maybe we are just here to play, and we are just here to find our playmates. Art can be the way. Like sports, and maybe it's just a discovery. All these journeys, all these routes we are following, and art can be our colors. I don't know. I can say something like that for a child if he or she asks me.
I wish I could hear you better, Daesh. This is my fault. I think there's just something weird with my controls where everything is just a little bit lower.
Can you hear me right
yes
now?
But it's really not like you. I think everyone is very faint to me, so but you particularly, and then Kate I could almost not hear also.
Omar, Cassandra, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
I can hear you.
I mean, yeah, exactly. So I think it's just on my end. But I'm sure I could hear you sing, Daesh, but I also don't want to put you on the spot because no one else is going to be, because I thought maybe
it is only me.
Yeah, and there were several people who were like, maybe, but then they didn't. So you can be the brave one.
Oh my heart.
Especially if you tell us a story about what you're singing, because there's everything that you sing. It has such a nice story to go with it oftentimes.
I chose a song from Central Anatolia. And the singer is he's a folk singer, let's say. He's really important in our history, musical history. His name is Neşet Ertaş. He lived in Turkey, but then he somehow paralyzed. Normally, he was playing bağlama. Bağlama is kind of guitar, kind of oud, a Turkish, let's say Turkish instrument, but it is also common in, let's say, for the other folks in Anatolia. Can you hear me right now, Emma? Peut-être? No.
Yeah, I mean it's faint, but I can hear you. Wait, let me see if I can.
I can speak loudly.
Yes, I mean if you speak like this, I can hear you. Yes.
Really, but it is kind of
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna try anyways. So I choose this song because I mean this musician. He suffered from his fingers.
Paralysis.
Yeah. Paralyzed.
Yeah.
And he was in Turkey, but he didn't find a solution for his problem. Then he moved to Germany. He found a doctor and he was cured, and he continued his musical career in Germany a little bit. But he was in Germany. He suffered a lot because he's in love with his land, let's say homeland. Then he wrote lots of songs about homesick. I choose a song. He's talking about his love, but his love is far from here, and he's talking about the hair of his lover. Yeah. Sorry, in my mind right now, I'm thinking in French as a Turkish person. It is not really easy, but
I can imagine. It's understandable.
I'm trying to find my words. Yeah. So this is the name of the song is Zülüf dökülmüş yüze. Are you ready?
What is it? What does the actual name of the song mean? Sorry to put you on the spot to translate. Never. Is it complicated?
No, it's not. It is not. Earlogs pour into the face. Earlogs pour into the face. Oh my. Eyebrows. Eyebrows sweep the face. Oh my. I'm tired of myself, wandered with troubles. The sun rose went beyond like this. It is my heart that overflows like this. You are there and I'm here. Oh my. Our lives have passed like this. Wander in these areas. Oh my. Be a scribe and write. Take an excavating and a shovel. Oh my, dig my grave. I know. I know it is a sad song, but it is a song. We can easily understand the love of homeland and the love of a man who's longing this lady from Anatolia. Are you ready? I'm gonna sing, or
yes.
You want me to talk in English?
Yes, preemptive applause.
Although I'm thinking.
Bravo!
Sorry. Can you hear me now? I won't hear you any longer. Okay, allez. Zulüm döküşse ama Qaşlar yakışmış ise ama usandım bu canımdan aman derdi geze geze usandım bu canımdan aman aman derdi geze geze gün doğdu aman gönlümüz coştu böyle aman sen orada ben burada aman aman ömrümüzü geçti böyle sen orada ben burada aman aman ömrümüzü geçti böyle bu biz ayrı aman katip ol da yaz gayrı ama bir kazma bir kürek aman aman mezarımı gazlarım bir kazma bir kürek aman aman mezarımı gazlarım.
Thank you. I think I heard the oh my part. I don't know. I kept trying to think which words went to which part. I also there was another thing I wanted to I just wanted to say I just love the tuning, the quarter, the microtones. It's so incredible when you're constantly in the equal temperament land. It's just wonderful to hear that. There's yeah.
You'd see all three of us going, oh yeah. He goes through those little microphones.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Oh,
What did
boy.
you to me, woman?
Oh my. That's really good.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's very short, these 20-minute little segments, but thank you so much, Cassandra and Dej, for being here. We can have a more in-depth conversation about some more narrow subject, maybe on a stream some other time. Thank you so much. Also, thank you for housing me when I needed it.
Doors are still open. Chicago is a blast. Come on, anytime.
Yeah.
I like this. Say Paris. Like, just give me a call, guys, if you're ever in town. Like,
Yeah.
all of you.
Lovely to see you all. Thank you for having
Leon
me.
as well. Yeah. Bye, Cassandra and Dej.
Cassandra.
Nice to meet you.
The necklace. She's saying the necklace is really beautiful, Cassandra.
Oh, thank you. Habibi got it for me.
Bye,
All right,
Cassandra. Bye, Dej.
Bye.
See you.
So actually, we're just going to finish up the stream alone together because Jim had something come up. He had something, I think, an emergency or something. Okay. So he's not going to be coming on, which is too bad. But we've already talked about like having, again, like I said to everyone on the stream, who knows how many I'm actually going to go follow through with, but like an actual like specialized like stream where you can actually talk to another person and it's not like revolving doors kind of thing. But that means that we have, time just to go through your segment, I guess, and just let me know what you've been doing for these last 2 years.
Well, these last 2 years for me have been, I think the biggest thing coming, 2020 we had COVID.
Yes.
So
and the way we met, remember, was because you were on a one of those COVID streams, and I think it was hosted by NIOP of all things.
Yes.
Remember NIOP?
Yes, exactly, because they were doing the regular.
Exactly, and I think you were there like maybe twice, and this idea was already germinating in my mind about just something out of the industry. What does that mean? And then you were a kind of the first kind of prototype of that thing that I thought, was an indie artist that kind of popped up at that time. And then I think we maybe recorded it in December or late December or something, or maybe early January 2021, and then 13th of January 2021, episode 1 of Convo on the Verge.
Wow.
I mean, it was called Convo on the Verge at that time. Now it's called Artists on the Verge, which is a much better title.
Yeah, sure. So the big news, I think, basically, if that was the timing of our last conversation, my baby was born.
Yes.
Around that time, and
so it's not a baby anymore. It's like a toddler now.
He's a 2-year-old.
Two.
He is 2, and what a learning curve that has been. I mean, I think there have been a lot of. It's difficult to summarize, but okay, I'll say in terms of work, I'm very happy that I've had my first orchestral commission in France, and I've even got my second orchestral commission in France, and I've they were both with the Orchestre National d'Auvergne, which is a little bit south in France. They're my first orchestral commissions really ever, so that was kind of a big deal. And they were working with young people as well, so that's very much my skill set. It's working with young people, engaging them in classical projects. I also have the great. I am really excited about this, but I'm really in the middle, so I'm also a little bit stressed. I'm working with what I think is the best opera company in the world.
Wow.
It's Birmingham Opera Company. They're a little middle kind of size opera company. Which nobody has heard of, but I literally think they are doing the most innovative and radical opera making on a big budget that is possible.
What is their name?
Birmingham.
It's Birmingham Opera. Okay.
The city of Birmingham. It's their opera company. They don't have an opera house, so they don't even have a theatre. It's just a couple of people in an abandoned factory putting on art in found spaces. So I'm doing a project with them to mark Holocaust Memorial Day in 2 weeks' time in the station of Birmingham. So they always do site-specific operas. So I was just like, to get a commission from them to do even a small piece. This is not a whole opera, it's just a couple of songs. It has been like a dream come true, really. But, and I say this with a but, especially to anyone listening out there, like work can come and work can go, and that's all great. But I have learned severe lessons with the arrival of my son, which is that sometimes it's better not to work. And I, as a man having a child, I don't feel like I've ever heard a message saying, man with child, you will have to take a pause in your career if you want to raise your child.
Yeah.
I've heard all my female colleagues around me saying, I want to be a mother. What is this going to cost me in terms of my career? I've never, ever heard a man think that. I like to think, I don't know what my wife would say, but I like to think that I'm quite an engaged father. You can't do both things at the same time. You can have a career, but you can't raise the career that was your baby. It was my baby. That was my first baby, my career. You can't have an entrepreneurial baby and a real baby and give them both the same level of attention. And so that has been a real learning for me. This is going to sound like kind of a thing for a lot of female colleagues who've got children, but like, yeah, as a man, you kind of look to the other side of the gender spectrum and go, okay, yeah, so they have to deal with that, but I'm a man, so I'm not touched by it. We're touched by it now. And so that was really hard and agonizing, because I was pushing against it. I was like, no, I don't need to slow down. I'm a man. But it's not to do with you being a man. Anyway, so that was really tough. Last year was probably the worst year of my professional career. And it's also been the best year of my professional career, because in terms of projects, it's been great. But in terms of my mental state, it's definitely been the worst. So I was really curious, like, I'm just putting it out there because I'm super curious to, like, anyone else who was kind of on the podcast, all those others who've just had children and stuff, how they've all been doing it, because, man.
I think one day at a time, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, I just keep thinking, I remember on the podcast, on our conversation on the podcast, you talked about the idea of successors and how important that is, not just as your biological babies that you that you raise, but that it's nothing makes sense without successors. Nothing that we do makes sense without it. And I just wonder, it's hard in our, maybe, I guess, industrialized society to make these things work. But in the end, what else makes sense except thinking in terms of making a world that you would want your either hypothetical or real or both children to live in, you know? Yeah. And I just got to think that it's got to give you some kind of like motivation or meaning or something, you know, that can actually ultimately feed your work, even though the first couple of years are so difficult. I don't know.
It's interesting that you say that. Funnily enough, I think this year, this year has put all of the, I guess as freelancers, generally speaking, who are all on the verge, we have to have an attitude that helps us to endure and turn problems into opportunities. So when life happens, that's a really good moment to put that all to the test. And I think the great thing that we all can also be is humble, and the more kind of humility with which we can approach our learning, you know, then we can say, for example, and I'm saying this because I'm about to say, like, all of last year I completely forgot every kind of idealistic thing that I had ever thought of before. All my kind of, like, I'm working with young people because it's like the future. Because I had a baby, I was just like, I just need to work, and I need money now, and I need time, and I don't have anything. I really felt it was a real crisis, and there might be a kind of post-confinement coming out burnout as well. But a colleague of mine said a baby is like a bomb going off in your life. Like, it is a life emergency in the emerging sense, but also like it just, there's no rationalizing and there's no philosophizing that will get you around the practical need to just do it right now. But that said, so hang on. By my saying this, I'm saying that, like, crises can come along in our careers because life happens, that throw you off the surfboard, but then you just get back on when you can, when it's cool and you feel like you're able to. And I got back on the surfboard a good kind of 2 weeks ago, thanks to Christmas holidays. So I definitely feel like 2023, finding the motivation in terms of career, actually for me now in 2023, the big leap of faith is that by taking a step back, that is the step forward, that I don't have to keep running. Actually, by stopping for a while, life will take me where I need to go. So this will be putting it to the test, really. I just don't want to be one of those dads that like had a fantastic career and wasn't a dad. I know that too well, which is exactly what motivates. So that's my motivation, I suppose, is from life experience. Like, I want to be a dad. So that's a very new thing. And as I say, for me, a big leap of faith to be like, okay, well, I might get calls and I might have to say no, or maybe I won't get any calls, but that's going to be fine. For the next 4 years, that's just how it's going to be, because 2023 is the arrival of the second one. So it's going to be like, So yeah, that's
wow.
The news.
Look, I don't know anyone who would be, in their 50s with half-grown children who would say, I was not able to have a career because of my children. I think I think that it must be, and I say this as someone who had much, much younger siblings. So I was sort of, I am not idealistic about what it's like to have a small child around. I know that pretty well, and from a young age. So I know I kind of know how difficult it is, even if I haven't been a mother. And I would say that it's probably the most difficult until probably school, when you have to send them away.
Yeah.
And that's another hard thing, right? Because they're just going to be gone.
Not even thinking about that.
8 years for 8 hours a day.
Oh my
and
God.
you have to feed them into the system, right? Sorry.
I'm living in France, and every day I'm working in this system. I'm going, that's another thing that's happened over 2 years. I've got to know the French school system, and I'm like,
because they're gonna be they're gonna be growing up in France. Yeah,
I'm gonna have 2 little French kids. So a lot of inherent xenophobia has been coming out.
Against French?
The last kind of 2 years. Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
It's funny that it's interesting. I ever since I started, and it's only been a very short experience compared to yours, because I've just kind of been back and forth since September. But I actually feel there's a weird kind of soft generosity to the French that isn't apparent necessarily from the crust kind of. Right. But I actually think that there is also some of the young people I met, they seem to be like trained in emotional intelligence more. But here I'm comparing to the Czechs, which might be a totally another part of the spectrum. But I actually find the French and also the standard of living to be pretty okay.
Yes, I think this is the thing. I mean, in terms of standard of living, I cannot complain. I really cannot. The thing that I've discovered is that so my 2 or 3 years of being here in France have shown me that this is going to sound super arrogant, but I'm going to put it out there as a kind of provocation, that the UK is definitely the best country to be in if you want to do participative work with communities.
Oh, interesting.
The best country for that. There is no other country that I have come across and I get around that is as good as the UK. And everyone who's got a good idea in the rest of the world has copied it from the UK. So that means that me coming here in France at the beginning, I was like, this is an entrepreneurial opportunity. I can corner the market here in France. Much tougher if you're not French in order to make that sell.
I hope
it is very good for you.
Sorry. I think you cut out. I don't know if this was just on my end or on your end, but so if you're not French and you go and you try to do community work, what happens?
It is a really hard sell.
Yeah.
Even for companies who've done participatory work, done something recently here in France, which I did in a project maybe 8 years ago in the UK, if not more, and that was already an idea that I'd stolen from someone else who'd done it like for generations. And I pitched it to this company, and they were like, "Oh, not sure that's gonna work."
Yeah.
And I was thinking, no, in the UK we've been doing this for at least 20 years now.
What was it specifically?
Co-created songs.
Okay. So the thing that you do, which is that the kids, it's for children, right? The kids co-write the songs. Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, I have a technique which it's my process, which I copied off a bunch of other people in the UK who've been doing it, like I say, for 30 years, of giving kids, you pitch them questions, and you say, okay, so does the tune go up or down? Is the song happy or sad? And they go down, it goes down, and it's an angry song, it's not a sad song. And so you go, okay, so does angry and going down sound like this? Dum 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 dum. They go, yeah, and it's as simple as that. And from that, you can construct, by asking the right questions, you can construct incredible songs. And I've been doing this for over a decade now. So for me to kind of pitch that to an orchestra, say, we could do this, and they go, oof, really? And this is a very open orchestra. So yes, this is a long-winded way of saying that in terms of professional work, it's been a challenge to suddenly be a real pioneer in a place where I'm not learning from the elders. I'm actually having to convince the entire country that this is a good thing. That's been a real adventure. Challenge. Which I guess was the point. Yes, challenge.
Yeah. You should come to, I think Lyon might be a pocket of like total like just art, like freedom, because in Lyon, at least at the and this is like the sister conservatory of the one in Paris, right? Yeah. That I'm at. They are just free. I mean, we are all totally like, we can do whatever we want.
That is interesting, because I am finding a lot of
it might be. I think Lyon and Paris kind of are against. They're kind of like the poles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you might want to come to Lyon.
You've made a very good case.
Sorry.
I am looking to move, actually. So maybe that's the place.
Yeah. So I'm actually getting over a cold. I didn't say this at the beginning of the stream because I didn't want to be one of those singers who has to announce those things, even though I'm not even singing. So that's why I'm coughing a little bit, and it's starting to come back as the stream goes on, and we're actually past time on the stream anyway. Let's, why don't I pull out a question for you? And if it's a good one, we can stop there. And if it isn't a good one to end on, then we don't.
Okay.
Okay. I don't know if this one pertains to you actually, because I think maybe you went right into like working as a musician. But what was an odd job that you had to make a living while pursuing an artistic career, and has it inspired you, or how did it inspire you?
No,
weird jobs that you may have had.
Man, I have had some weird jobs in my life. The weirdest one was when I made the switch from being a director. So I did fall into directing straight out of college. But then when I tried to make a switch from directing to composing, I thought that would happen automatically. And I learned the hard way that it didn't. So I was unemployed for like a year and starving. And then I realized I should probably get a job. So I got the first job that I could, which was working in a kebab shop. And it was a kebab shop in East London, which is like the hipster capital of the UK. It's not quite Berlin, but it was like everyone had tattoos, and everyone had like a fade. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to live the dream. I'm going to get a fade. I'm going to grow my beard. I'm going to wear baggy clothes or like weird colors and be a hipster and serve kebabs, and really expensive kebabs with like
gourmet kebabs.
Exactly. It was gourmet, but they was really good.
Perhaps vegan also.
There was a vegan option that was definitely there. And whilst so all the kebabs came in wraps, and it was in this kebab shop, because we could choose the music, that I learnt about hip hop, because there were a few aficionados, and I was like, oh, could you recommend me something? So I started learning about 80s hip hop, and so I was bored out of my mind, obviously. So I started writing poems while I was waiting tables, and then I thought, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I gave someone a rap with their rap? And so that is exactly what I did. I started rapping for the customers. I would give them their rap, and then a few minutes later I'd be like, so your name was Amanda, right? So, hey Amanda, I gotta confess, you're the only girl in this place I want to impress. This kind of thing. And that led me to...
And I assume that's how you met your future wife, right? Surely you were... No, I'm just kidding.
Not quite. If only it worked like that.
That would have been a cool story.
Yeah, exactly. But that did lead to an ongoing interest in hip hop and rap, which turned into a core part of my PhD project pitch. Because then I started actually being relatively clued up on it, and it became a massive part of my doctoral research of like how I could include contemporary music into opera. And so yeah, my old job was like it was perfect. I have no regrets about that 2-year stint as a kebab shop waiter. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, those odd jobs, I wouldn't avoid them. I think they're great. And you got to get also it's great to exit the academy and exit that ivory tower a little bit as well, right?
Yeah, and into the world. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's also, not that I'm artificially trying to wrap this up, but I also think that's... Oh no, wrap it up. I didn't even realize.
On fire.
I didn't even realize I did that. But not that I'm trying to artificially wrap this up, but that is kind of like, it's what artists on the verge or indie artists, as I define them, kind of do, right? I mean, and you just really have to be in there with those communities. And so often, the tension is that so often you're educated away from them. You're kind of educated in the ivory tower, and then you have to find some way to exit it and to make your own, and to really be, like I say, the backbone of what the arts really are. Which is not the 1% of people that are most visible and have the most money in the sector. So There you have it. Odd jobs, embrace them. I love being a barista, actually. I get a lot out of that. Yeah.
Are you doing it now?
Actually, that's the weird thing I'm doing now, is that I go back to Prague for a couple weeks and I do barista work here, and then I go to make a little extra money, and then I go to Lyon. But I'm going back to Lyon for the rest of the school year until end of June now, because financially it makes no sense to go to Eastern Europe to make money to live in Western Europe. It would make sense the other way around, but it makes no sense this way. This was purely personal decision.
Whoa. Funnily enough, I'm thinking of leaving my teaching job, teaching music. So if you want to swap, maybe we should talk. Because I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool to be a barista again?
Oh yeah. Cool. No, look, I mean, in a way, it's just the best, because you don't have to. You're with people. I go there to relax, honestly, because you're around people. You're kind of doing a thing that is a little bit like what drew you to performing or to the arts in the first place, which is that you're really there and you have to be in the bustle and you have to think fast, and you are serving people, which I think is also what the artist does. When I'm on stage, I think that one of the principal things is generosity. No matter what kind of character you're portraying, it's generosity. You're serving the people that are in front of you. Yep. So yeah, to me, there's actually a lot of parallels between, if I were to answer the question, I don't know if you were here on the stream, one of my questions was that I pulled out of the hat was what work is the most like the work of artists that is not artists. Yeah. So like doctors heal people, do artists here also heal people, teaching. And of course, it's all of those things, right? It's a little bit of everything. But service work, which is very, and care work, both very underrated professions. Actually, I think is up there. And hey, it used to be that like musicians were traveling musicians, and that would go from bar to bar, and they were just part of the bar scene anyway, right?
Exactly.
So today like with recorded media, that's really changed as well. So, so on that note, yes.
Well, sorry, on that last note, I just want to say on behalf of every single person who was here and participating and speaking, you did a great job. Thank you so much for having us, like both on this and on all your podcasts. Your interviews have been so interesting, and it's been just so stimulating and rewarding. So on behalf of everyone,
great.
Thank you.
It's very slow. I'm very slow at getting new episodes out, but I think it's steady. I'm a very steady as she goes kind of person. I'll keep chipping away at it, and hopefully this idea will like happen when, you know what I mean? Like it'll actually become not just a small mutter, but maybe something that actually attracts people and makes them understand what it actually is to be an artist, that it isn't what it's portrayed, how it is portrayed in I guess the media, or what kids think when they're going into school to study this. They don't know what they're actually going to encounter. So, yeah.
Cool. Let's make that happen.
Thank you for being my first guest and for co-hosting the stream with me, and for staying overtime. And thank you for everyone who's still watching. Let's just for kicks, like how many people? There's 2 people still watching. Yeah. So, have a nice evening, and I hope we stay in touch and maybe have like a conversation on a subject some other time that's more in depth.
That'd be
Bye.
Great. Thanks, Emma. Bye.
Bye-bye.